Okay, so in this session, what we are going to go through is that the basics which I created for you. I'm going to share this document with you once after the meeting is over. So here you can see on the left side. I mean, are you comfortable with the Colab? Ever used
Oh,
Colab?
no. No,
No.
I've never used Colon before.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what I'm going to do, because I already logged in. So I mean, oh, you open the Chrome, okay, and search for Colab. Okay. Are you able to see my screen properly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can write the code in many Python code in many compilers. For example, like Visual Studio or Jupyter Notebook, and Google has its own version which is called Colab. Okay, so it comes for free of cost. You don't have to pay any money. So once you search for Colab, here the first one, welcome to Colab. You click on this one, and here, so click on File, click on New Notebook in Drive, and then so because I have not signed in yet, it will ask me to sign in. So click on Sign. You enter your email address, and then the password later. Okay, so I hope you do have a Google account, of course, the one that you're using right now. You enter the password, and then right after that you will be landed in a page like this. Sorry, new notebook in Drive. So you will see something like this. It's like straightforward, it's not a big thing. Okay, it will take like some 1 or 2 minutes for you to create this one, and now you can see um, like a Colab notebook where this is the place where you can write the code. And here let's rename this one, like Python interview, or let's say, like Python questions for tool, right? And here you can see the connect button. So let's see what exactly this connect. So click on connect. So it is connecting. So basically this is like a dummy notebook as of now. And now once you click on the connect, it will connect to one of the hardware systems, and you will get some RAM. So if you click on this one, you can see right now, even though you were using it for free of cost, so Google allocated you some 12.7 GB of RAM and some 57, like 107 GB of hard disk for you. So you can use this, and you can practice the coding very easily. You really don't have to install like many softwares like how we used to do like earlier. You can just come here and you can say, like print Rajiv Pujala, okay, and then click on this play button, and once you click on this one, it will print the output here. This is as easy as it is. Any questions on this so far, how to create the Colab notebook and all?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I got it.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, now let's we will start with the basics. Okay, is this font size fine for you?
Oh, yes. Good.
Okay, okay. I mean, are you also planning to write the code in parallel with me, or you would prefer to me walk you through that first, and then later you can go through it on your own pace? Which one you prefer?
Oh, yes. Yes. I prefer you walk through it, then I'll go through it on my own. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure, definitely. So we will start with the basics. Okay, so if you, I mean, you can take a text here, and if you put this one hash, and if you mention like something basics, and if you click on shift enter return, so it will create something like this for you. Like, if you wonder like how I create this one, you can use the text here, text for like writing some notes for your own notes. The code is like write the code. Cool. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we have something called integers, floats, boolean, and string, and this is something like very like common thing. But again, I would like to start everything from the beginning so that we will cover everything. So for example, let's assume that there is a class where the students are taking a Python programming course. Okay, so let's see what I mean, how we can define a string and integer here. For example, let's say students count in a class is equal to 400 people. So this one, it is an integer. I mean, you can type like print type of students count. If you run this one, you can see this is an integer. So what does the meaning over here is that, so there are like no decimal points over here after that this one. So this is an integer, right? For example, let's say the rating of the class is 4.99. So because now you see there is a decimal here, so this is called as a float. Print type of rating Okay, this is a float. So now we have seen integer and float. So we have like four important things, which is like integer, float, and the next one is a boolean. So our booleans are important. The booleans are very much important. For example, false. So print type is published. So booleans are like whether it's like true or false, the person has arrived or not. So instead of telling like, for example, people do say like, if person arrived, I wanted the output to be 1. If not arrived, 0. For example, let's say if you're dealing with a machine learning data set, for example, just like that, if the person has heart disease, I wanted it to show the result as 1, and no heart disease, it has 0. So instead of 1, you can take like a boolean, which is like true, or 0, you can do like false. So booleans are very much important, and why it is important, I'll cover you when that specific chapter comes. And then we will have a string course name. For example, let's say is equal to Python programming. Okay, and if you just print the course name, I mean, you don't have to print this one. Actually, you can just write something like this. It will print for you, but it will print here in the quotes. So that's the reason why we use the print course name. So when you use the print, it will not print it in the quotes like how it is happening over here. Right? And if you would like to know, like for example, now you are seeing a variable like this one, and you really don't know whether it is an integer or float or something. So for that, I always wanted you to remember this type of course name. So this will tell you like, whether it is a string or this one. So why you have to know whether it is string or integer? For example, 10, this is like integer, this is a string, and this one both are not same. If in case, if you are adding some data in the using Python, and if you don't understand whether it is a string or this one, for example, let's say you are entering 10 and you are thinking it is a numeric 10, but the way the program is developed, it will give the output as like in string. So I mean, that's the reason you always should know like what is the data type of the variable. And next, let's see the print, how the print works. So we have two different types of prints that you can use. For example, let's say the students count is equal to 1000. So you can just print as said, like, students count, you can just call this one 1000, or else you can do like, print students count. This will print the number. For example, if I see output like this one, I can't understand what exactly over here. Again, when you are writing a program, if you just mention like print students count, for example, if you're writing something like this, and then no one's do understand after like some certain 10 days. A program is something that when you're developing, and everyone knows like what it is, and after 10 days only you and God knows like what exactly this number over here. Right? So it is like always you have to write the program in an explicitly way that even after 1 year, if you go through that, you can understand what is this 1000 means. So for that reason, you can mention like number of students in the class, and I'm giving a comma and I'm calling the students count. So now if I run this one, now I can see like, oh, okay, there are how many number of students in the class? They're like 1000. So this is how you code anything, even the basic thing, like a professional. Okay, so this is something that you do see multiple times, but if you ask me like how a real professional, like a person who has like some 15 years of experience, 20 years of experience in the Python, in the coding language, and how they write the same one over here. So print, they will use this format. Just remember, I just used F for the format, and number of students in the class, and then I'm not going to give the comma here, and then I'm going to open these flower brackets, students count. There it go. So this is what often you will see most of the times using the format. So they can write anything using the format. For example, let's say for example, I also wanted to mention the rating over here. Print F, okay, number of students in the class, colon, so students count, and also let's say, and the rating of this session of rating is, and we already have something here, rating. Okay, rating is 4.99. So I'll just mention that rating keyword, rating variable name here. And if I run this one, see, so basically you don't have to use like, print for students count 1 and one more print for the rating. Instead of that, you can use the format and you can write everything in one sentence. And for example, if you would like to have this one in a different line, so you can put slash n here. So basically slash n represents a new line, and once you click on shift enter, shift return if you're using the MacBook, or shift enter if you're using the Windows, or if you click on this play button, it will execute, and you can see like in the output like this one. So these are the basic types of print. Any questions on this so far? Okay. Okay. So let's also see the last one more thing. For example, we are seeing the emails, right? For example, you are sending, assume that you have to do some automation by using Python where you have to send the emails to the people. And at the end, you have to put your signature. So how you want it best? For example, Rajiv Pujala, right? And if you put something like this, by using the print, for example, see, best Rajiv Pujala, this will be like this. And you will not get always the kind of format. For example, let's say slash then one, this one. But if you wanted some format and all, what you can do, so for example, let's say signature is equal to, instead of one quotes here, double quote, I will use the 3, total 6. I'm going to use 1 for this one. Hi, this is Rajiv Pujala, best Rajiv. And now print signature. Then you can see it will exactly print the format that whatever you wrote it over here. So this is something you may not use it like most of the times, but again, if you wanted to keep one format across all the times, so you have to use something like this one. Okay. Okay. So now let's talk about string operations. Strings are important, so we will talk about this one. So let's say the course name is Python programming, and we know how to print this one, right? So print of course, basically it prints the course here. And now let's say how many letters are there in this one. Okay, how to find this one? We can use length of course. It will give how many, what is the length of this one. So this is important, length. So sometimes you have to count the length. For example, in most of the applications, whatever the APIs or something you are sending the data, so they have some limitation. For example, they only can accept like some 40 characters or like less than 40 characters. In those scenarios, length plays a pivot role on this one. And now let's see. So if I would like to slice, if I would like to have only P over here, only P I would like to take from the course, I can say slice. I can use slice. Slice is represented by this symbol, and I just wanted a P. So basically, how it starts? It's the index starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So everything starts from 0, and from back it is like -1, -1, -2, -3, -4. So if I want the first letter, I will just do like course of 0, just slice. I'll get the P. Okay. If I would like to get everything, so I can do 0, 0 this one. Again, it will give it will slice all the data. So for example, or sometimes you will see something like this. Again, it will print the whole data. So here basically this is like 0 colon or the colon. It really helps us to print everything. But what if you wanted the last word, which is G? If you would like to see what is the last word, last letter in the last word, so what you can do for that, course of -1. If you remember, I told it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, and if you want to come from the reverse, it is like -1, -2. So if I print like -1, it will give the G, the last letter of the last word. And now, for example, let's say you wanted only until here, PYT. So how you can slice this one? Course of, so 0, because I want it from beginning, 0 to 3. If I mention 3 over here, so basically it is like 0, 1, 2 and 3, right? So for example, 0 is P and 1 is Y, 2 is T, and then 3 is H. But if you see over here, when I printed from 0 to 3, it only gave the result as PYT, but not until H. It's because whenever we slice using 0 to 3, it will only consider as 0 comma 1 comma 2. So the last one is always like excluded, it will not print. So for example, if you want to print until 0 to the first 4 letters, you have to give 4, it will print the 4. Okay. And then if someone asks you like, hey, just reverse the string, reverse this one. So course of, so what I wanted, 1 to -1. So this will print each and every letter. For example, C, N, O, T, P, H, Y, and yeah, the first one. No, sorry. This is this one, and yep, I will talk about the reverse the string at the end. No, one second. -1. This will print everything in the reverse. Can you see? G, I, N, I, etc. This will print everything in 1 second. And so for that we have to use 2 colons and -1. Any questions on this one?
No.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, cool. And then let's talk about escape sequences. These titles are important, but again, I have kept everything in my notes, which I'm going to share you after the course. So let's say the course, the same one I'm copying here. You don't have to print it again, but for every section I'm doing it here, right? So now I wanted to put, I mean, either you can use these codes, or either you can use these codes. Python programming. So both are same. I mean, consistently you can use either the double quotes or the single quote. For example, let's say I wanted to print something. For example, let's say Python programming. Okay, I want to put a code over here within the text. But if you're writing the code, for example, course is equal to Python, and again if you try to put here, it will not take actually. For example, let's say programming, and again if you just wanted to print here, this one, it will not, it will give you some syntax error. But within the double quotes you can put one code and you can print this one, and you can see it has one quote. But if you're using a double quote here, and if you want to print a double quote here as well, so what all you have to do, you put a double quote, and before the double quote you put the escape character. Okay, you can see this one. And now once you do this one, you can see this is how it prints the double quote within the text. And even for the single quotes you can do the same. Python, okay, programming, print course. Okay, yep. And I know these are like boring, but you know, these are like very much important. I mean the basics, so you have to spend some time on this one. Format strings. Let's see how we can format the strings. This is one more concept. For example, let's say we have two names. Let's say Google last name is equal to India. So let's say you wanted to concatenate these two into one, like Google India, right? Let's see how we can do this one. So you can do like first plus last. That's it. You can concatenate two using the plus sign over here. But if you see here, it printed the output like, you know, Google India, and there is no space. And if you would like to have some space here, you can mention like first plus, let's give some space by using the quotes, plus last. So it will no, let's give some space here. It will print the output like Google/India. So the same one, have a professional quotes. Instead of this one, what we can do, print. You can use the format. If you remember, we just started with the formats. So for the formats, we have to use the flower brackets first, and then you don't have to use the plus and last. So you can see something like this. So this format strings plays a key role in everything. So always remember that whenever you are using a print statement and printing something, always do use the formats. Okay, and let's see. This is something which is like important. Check memory address. Okay, maybe this is something that you may they may ask you about the memory address. For example, let's say first name is equal to India. Let's say like, you know, Canada. Let's say Rajiv only. I don't want to use. Okay, Pujala. That is my surname, last name. So now I'm doing this one. Full name is equal to first plus, I'm just doing the concatenation last, right? So print of full name, this prints the full name for us. And now I mean, for us this is like, hey, okay, I run this one, and this is like the over here. But for the system, it has to store this variable data somewhere in the RAM. So that's the reason why this RAM plays a crucial role whenever you are running the scripts. For example, 12.7 GB of RAM is something which is like good enough for understanding the basics or practicing the code. But I mean, if you ask me, whenever I'm implementing a machine learning models, the kind of a hardware configuration that I use is like something like some 256 GB of RAM, or like some 512 GB of RAM. So it is like a huge. And why it is? Because the moment when we create a variable, for example, first and last, it your system will allocate some memory, and your system will store this variable data in the RAM. So basically if you want to know like where exactly it is like stored, so we have something called identity. So you can use like print id of full name to see where it is stored. So this is stored over here, and now again if you execute the same, it will take one more byte, and it will save over here. If you see over here, 01950, yeah. So this is where your memory is saved. For example, let's say print id of first. So this is where it is saved. So for each and every variable that whatever you use, so basically I mean you are consuming your system hardware configuration. And so this is the reason when someone asks you like, to write a code, you should not use variables like whatever you want to use and all. So just think about like what are all the variables which are required for me, and then use only those variables, because the moment you declare a variable, it will take some of your RAM memory. And once your RAM memory start being used more and more, your program takes lots of time to run. So that's why sometimes if you see, some programmers do run the same program within like matter of seconds, fraction of seconds, and sometimes because these unwanted variables and all, it will take like more time. And again, we all know that once you restart your system, all the memory in the RAM will be cleared, so you really don't have to worry about this. And for now, whatever the memory that we are using here, it is not our system memory, it is Google Cloud Colab memory. So it is totally fine. Once you close this one, it will be automatically disconnected, and they will start using the same RAM for some other systems. But for us, it is important to understand like how we are using the variables. Any questions on this?
No.
Okay, fine. Okay, let me know if you think like I'm going fast, because as like you said that you already know the basics. So I'm just trying to cover with respect to the interview. So
That's
now,
fine. Yeah.
yeah. So let's take one more variable. Course is equal to the same one, Python programming. Tolu, what I wanted you to really do. So once after this session, I wanted you to open this this Colab notebook on your laptop, and then open a new notebook, and then you start practicing. Okay, practice. You practice everything now today, and again tomorrow you practice, day after tomorrow you practice. So if you can practice like some 4 to 5 times in a week, so it will help you to remember for longer time, because this basics content is huge, and it will take some time for you to remember. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now so I have used the camel case Python programming. For example, if you would like to print this in if you would like to have the lowercase, I mean in Python is a case sensitive language, which means that Python and Python, these both are different. Okay, so how we can see, print Python equal to Python, so both are false. But if it is like capital P in both the sides, it is like true. So it is a case sensitive language. So that's the reason you have to remember these string methods. For example, how you can convert this as a lowercase. So you can do course dot lower. So this is like an inbuilt function which is already there. I'm just calling that function. So if I run this one, it will print everything in the lowercase. And if I wanted this in a uppercase, I can do print course dot upper, and it will print in the uppercase. And if you want a camel case, camel is like first letter of each word is like capital. So for example, let's say this is like small p here. Okay, and if you'd like to have a camel case. So print course dot title. So it will print every letter which is at the beginning of every word in the capital letter. So these three are the most important things. Title is something that you may not use every time, but upper and lower is something that you may have to use like most of the times. Okay, and now let's say we have some special characters. For example, if you see over here, Python programming, and there are like some unwanted spaces over here. So if I print this one, so you really can't say like there are like some empty spaces over here. But if you print the original course name, which is Python programming, and if you print this one, now you can see now okay, sorry, original course. Yeah, you can see the original one, it is like from the beginning, and here the one which has empty spaces, trail spaces, and it has some problem. So now if you compare both of this one, it will give some the data is not matching. Just assume that you are dealing with some millions of records, okay, and you may not go through each and every record to check whether this is like really matching or not. So you have to delete the empty spaces before using any string operators. So for that we have something called strip. So print course dot strip. Okay, so I'll print the course first, normal one, and then we'll print the course dot strip. So now you can see, so it's a function. So for all the functions you have to use this one, open and close brackets. You can see this is how we cleared all unwanted spaces here and here, right? And then I always prefer to use the strip for each and every string. I always do that. If we just wanted to remove the empty spaces on the left side, you can use print course dot left strip. This is only for the knowing purpose you can use, but again, if you see there is a empty space over here, if you want to do only the right strip, course dot right strip, and it has kept the left spaces like that, and it has deleted the right spaces. So again, what I would suggest you, if they ask you a question on the strings and you're doing something, so you use this strip word even though you know that you don't need to do that for the sake of interview. So just like you're like, hey, you know what, so this is string actually, so they can enter some spaces. And for example, let's say one of the practical questions, okay, you have to build something where the user can enter their name. For example, name is equal to, we have a function called input, enter your name, okay, and print the name. Okay, print something like the entered name is name. Okay, so like this one. Now if I run this one, it will ask you to enter your name. So now if I do like if I copy from system, there's some spaces, and if I do this one, and if I click on enter, so see how it took this one. So, and also for example, and the length of the name is, for example, length of name. Okay, for example, let's do this one. So I'm entering my name. Ideally, if I enter my name without any spaces, it is like 5 letters, but again I'm running the same cell and I'm entering with some spaces, and now if I do this one, it is like 10 letters. The length is like 10 letters. So this is not really good. So for that, what we have to do is that, so here after the name, I'm going to dot strip, okay, and here dot strip, okay. So now I use the strip, which reduces even if I enter it, it reduces one. Now let's enter, so Rajiv, there it goes. So this is how you can create some forms or something by using the strip function, and which helps us to delete to remove the unwanted spaces. Okay, and then so what is our course name? It is Python programming. Okay, let's do one more thing, Python programming. So let's see a specific word is like in this variable or not. For example, let's say if I wanted to check, for example, let's say Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook. Now let's say we want to check whether Apple is there in this text. For example, this is a text message. If you want to see like Apple word is there in your this one, so now you can do using the if condition. So okay, if we'll go later, so what we will do, course dot find Microsoft. So now it, because the Microsoft is there, so it has written like 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So this is how it counts from the index 0, and it has written the position where this Microsoft word is available. For example, let's say I'm trying to find your name in this one, and if it is not there, it returns -1. So this is something, I know this is like too much of information, but this is something that we have to remember when dealing with the strings. If it is like matching, it will remember the index or like -1. And now let's say in the course, this one, you wanted to replace Google, Microsoft. So for example, let's say Facebook with Meta. Okay. So course dot replace, what is the current name, Facebook. So this is how they change everything in the program. So wherever there is a Facebook, I wanted to change it to Meta, and you replace this one. See, it has changed this one. So this is how simply we can do this. But always do remember that this is a case sensitive. If you remember like small of this one, so this is like gone. So that's the reason you have to use the uppercase or the lowercase. And then if you wanted to quickly check instead of using the find, you want to check whether Apple is there or not. So you can use like Apple in course. So if it is there, it will print. For example, Rajiv in course. So this print false. So basically this is the way the Boolean functions comes into the picture. So wherever it is printing true, which means that it is a Boolean function, and this is like true, it is available. Wherever it is false, it is not available. So any questions on this so far?
No, thanks. It's good.
Sure. So let's deal about the numbers. So numbers are like kind of easy, but when you're performing the arithmetic operations, you always need to know like with what you're dealing. So we have 1. This is like integer, which we started. This is an integer, right? And now 1.1. So for example, 1.0. This is a float. Okay. So and why we have to consider whether it is integer or float? It all depends on what you are giving. For example, this is a float, and there is something called double. Okay. So basically, when you create, for example, let's say x is equal to 1.0. So now the moment you create this as a float, it will allocate some bytes of memory in the RAM. By default, it will allocate some memory. So, and for example, if we say this as 1.0 but as a double, like by using the type conversion, it will allocate more memory compared to the float. So what really happens for us when we are running like small programs, it really doesn't matter whether we use a float or double. But when we are dealing with like some 100 or 200 lines of program, these data types like the float and the double, they come into the picture because the double takes more memory in the RAM compared to the float. Your programming time, it will be increased. So this is what they usually check in the lead code. So for example, if they ask you to write a lead code, and you are writing in the platform where it will tell you the execution speed. So if you use a type like double, your execution time, for example, let's say like one second. But for the same program, if I convert it as a float, and if I run this one, I can execute the same in a fraction of like milliseconds. So this is how the numbers do come into the picture. But if someone asks like what is the difference between the float and the double or the integer, so for the integers, they're like no decimals, and the moment once you have a decimal, it can be a float or a double. Again, by default, it will be a float. And if you would like to hold a long number, and then you can use the double. Okay. Now let's perform some arithmetic operations. So print 10. So I'm adding 2. This is something that we all know for sure. Print 10 plus 3. And if you would like to subtract, this one. And if you would like to multiply, this is like very straightforward, everything. And now let's see, if you would like to if you would like to perform the division, 10 divided by 3. So basically this is like this is giving the result of 3.33. If you perform the division, 3.33, right? This is one. And if you don't want to have these decimals over here, you can write something like this, 3, right? And if you'd like, this is the quotient, and if you'd like to have the remainder, you can use the modulus. This gives the 1. Any questions on this one? Okay, and if you would like to perform the
No, yeah.
square, you can use something like into I mean, it's a single star represent asterisk represents the multiplication, double asterisk represents the square. For example, this one, how this one takes 10 multiplied by 10, so this is like 1000. Okay, so now let's working with numbers. Let's understand more of the data. For example, um, there is a number called x is equal to 2.9. Now, the interviewer asks you round the value. Okay, so what you will do, round off 2.9. Okay, so it is 3. Why it is 3? Because it is like, for example, you go to a restaurant for dining, and then your bill came like some $20.9, and then so when you round the value, so on the invoice it will be like some 21, like, right? So this is how the round performs. For example, let's say 20.2 is the value, and you want to round this one, and this came around like 20. So basically now if you're running a business, you are losing like 2 cents, 20 cents, right? So, and now if you see over here, this is like not in our control. So basically how it works, anything which is like 220 greater than 5, if you round this one, it will take the next number. So 25.51, so for example 51, it will take the next number. Anything which is like less than 20.5 or 49 or 5 or something, it will go to the less number, right? So now if you are running a business, for example, if you're part of the finance team, these cents as well, it really doesn't matter, right? And every information is like a crucial information. So if you would like to control on this one, you can use one of the libraries called math, import math. So why we have to use the libraries? So if you remember, if you know all the statistics, there are like lots of statistics that, you know, if you wanted to compute everything manually, you have to write each and every line manually, one by one. For example, let's say this plus function, we just use the plus function here, but there will be like some thousands of lines of program behind this plus operator. So instead of writing all those lines, we're just using the plus operator here, and it is like performing the addition for us, right? So this is how we use the inbuilt functions. So like that, for some of the functions by default you will not come. For example, when I'm using the multiplication here, I did not import anything, but because it all comes with the default package, but there are like some 100 case of libraries in the Python where it will not come by default, because if everything comes by default, it will be very hard. It will take lots of time for you to run any cell. So that's the reason Python gave us a flexibility that you can import whatever the module you want. So I want to perform some mathematical operations, and that's what I'm importing the math. Okay, so over here, now I wanted to control this one. So if I give a value, for example, x is equal to 2.9, I wanted to print 2 over here. So now how I can control? So I can control by using this one, print math dot floor of x. So now it will print 2. So by using this float, it's the float, it always denominate and downs the number to the last value. So it gives a value like 2. And if in case, if I want the maximum value after this one, which is a seal. So the floor, I mean, where we are sitting is the floor. If you look our head up, then what we see is the seal, right? So math dot seal of x, basically this prints the next value. So this is how, by using the math functions, actually you can control what value is over there. And sometimes, for example, let's say you have a negative value, something like this, okay? And now the person with whom you are working, they tell like, hey man, this is representing like a negative values, but I wanted you to count it as a positive value. So for example, he says like x is equal to 2.9, y is equal to 5, and he's expecting an output as like 7.9. But we all know that if I put like x plus y over here, it will give me 2.1, because the system knows it as a negative value. So, and now what we can do, so there is something called absolute. So we all use this absolute word, right? If someone asks something, hey, can you do that? Though it is like, it's a question like whether you can do it or not, you're like, absolutely, I can do that. So basically absolute everything which converts the negative energy into the positive energy. Similarly, if it is like minus 2.9, it will print like 2.9. Even if you give a positive value, it will give the positive value only. So basically absolute is a keyword which helps us to convert any value from negative to positive. So now the same one over here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the apps over here and apps over here. So why I'm using apps absolute for the why? Because once you write the program, how you should write is that even after like a decade, it should work no matter whatever the kind of data it is. This is what if you take the subscription of the lead code and if you're practicing over there, this is what you understand. So you write the program not based on current scenario, you write the program considering all the scenarios. So let's execute this one. So it gave the result of 7.9. So interesting, right? Okay, let's go to next one, data type conversions. All of these are the like very basic ones. Any questions on this one, Tolu?
No, sorry, I was on mute. I was talking on mute. Yeah,
Sure.
no question.
Okay. So for example, what is a data type conversion? So sometimes you would like to convert an integer to a float to an integer, etc. Let's see how we can do this one. Let's say our x value is 1.1. So this is if you check the type of x, this is a float. Now I wanted to convert this as a integer. So how I can convert int of x? So int is integer, int of x, basically it converts a value into integer, and for integers it will not hold any decimal, so that's the reason the output is small. So if you put like float of x, it will give the same one, which is a float. And what we have something called boolean of x, it will give the true. Anything, for example, bool of 23 is x, true. Bool of true is a s. So boolean of false, it is a false. So anything which you pass, and if there is no data, if there is a data, it will give 1 true, or other than that, if for example -1, it will give true. So if it is a false, or this one, the boolean, it gives the false. And why this one is like very much important, if for example if you're running something, and based on if you pass the bool, if there is like no data written from that function, it will return the output as false, and you can just take that false and you can tell to the person like, this is like false, this is not happening, or something like that. Okay, this is all about the bools, the data conversions. So we have 4 main important ones which we already discussed, which is int, float, or double. You may not see double most of the times, but double, boolean, and then so double or long also they will call, and then the string. So string, okay, I did not discuss about the string. For example, x is equal to 1.1, and if I convert this as x into this one, it will print like 1.1 in the codes. So now no longer the system reads this as like 1.1 numeric value, but it reads as like some name. So for example, this is a string, this is also a string, right? But whereas for humans like this, whenever we see this one, we think like, okay, the value is like 1.1, whereas for the system it is like, it's a string, it's a text, it has no value automatically. Okay, so next what we will see, the inputs. So sometimes if you write a code, for example, the interviewer says like, hey, develop me a function where I can enter a number. So the code has to ask me, hey, enter a number, and then I would like to enter the number. So let's see how we can do this one. For example, I'm taking a num input. Basically this helps us to enter a value, enter the number. Okay, so I just created a nice format. Okay, and then whatever the entered number, the let's use the format strings, why not? The entered number is num. Okay, so when I run this one, so if you see here, I have the input keyword basically which helps me to enter the value. So click on execute this cell. So now it is asking like, this will be like continuously running until you enter the value, which is like really good. So once you join in this company, if they ask you to perform some certain operations, for example, if they ask you like, hey, you have to run this program and all, and for example, let's say while running it will ask you something, so it will look like this, and the code behind this one is this one. So for example, if you enter like 12, enter the number, the entered number is 12. This is really good. But what if for the same program, enter the number I have given like Google. So it is taking, so basically this code is like now like it's a dumb code. So whatever you're giving, it is accepting and it is giving like the entered number is Google. So this is not what we want, right? So that's the reason why the type conversions are comes into the picture. So what I'm doing, I'm going to put integer over here, okay, and I'm running here. So now it will only accept the integer values. So if I enter number 12, this is fine. But if I run the same cell again, and if I enter like Google, it will throw an error. So this is how, by using the data type conversions, you can control the code. So for example, let's say for the similar one, for example, name. So input, enter your name, okay, print, entered name is name, okay. So now I can give like Rajiv, this is fine. But if I run the same cell and if I give like 12, this is also fine. 12 is never a number. So for that, now I'm going to use the string data conversion type over here, so that now I'm restricting this. You throw an error whenever it shows something like whenever it is not a string. So now if I run this one, now I'm going to give name a number again. So okay, the number it took as a string. So this is bad. And I mean, this is not bad. This is like something what we anticipated. And if you give this one, it will take as a string. So whatever you enter here, it will take as a string, but not an automatic value. But if you wanted to have a strict numbers, you can use this one. Okay, so any questions on this one?
No.
Okay. I keep on do like to ask like if you have any questions, so that like because I'm going a little fast and I'm kind of a person who is like very talkative. So yep. And I would like to have these sessions like interactive. I mean, if in case if you have any doubt, you just pitch in and you say like, hey Raju, just hold on, I have a question, I have a doubt or something. Then I'm like very much happy to clarify. If in case if I'm not able to clarify you in this session, definitely I'll come back to you with an answer.
Yeah, I think when we get to when we get to other session, I'll have a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
like I said, yeah, I'm very familiar with with basics already, and I've been doing a lot of stuff too with Python, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. So let's do the comparison operators here. So I mean, comparison operators are nothing greater than, less than, all these operators. For example, print 10 greater than 3, it will print as yes. If in case you put like less than, it will print like no. And also we have like 10 greater than or equal to 3. This is good. And we have if you want to compare something, you can do like this one, or you can do this one. It will print true. So this is interesting. For example, 10 equal to 10. Can you guess the output over here?
This one is gonna be false.
Yep. So how we can make this as a true?
Oh, you can just convert, right? We can convert the string to integer.
Exactly. So you can either convert this as int or something like that here, and then it will be true. Or like you can convert both of them into string, as like you said. For example, string of 10 equal to 10. This also works. Okay. And then so if you print 10 not equal to 10, this is like not equal to. So basically, of course, it will print true because they are not equal to. And then okay, so and also we know that, right, bag equal to bag, they are not same, right, because of case sensitive. Yeah. So now interesting ones going to start from here. Even whenever I'm practicing this code, like I do have a habit of practicing all the code that I have in my repository like once in every week. So basically every day I read something. So either it's a new concept, or else I prefer to go back to all my repositories and I start practicing again and again. That's what I do. And whatever we have covered until here, all these are like the boring ones, but still I prefer to like read it again and again so that I will remember this one. Okay.
Yes.
So
You mean like your codes in your repository, you go back to it and then try to like review it, right? That's what you mean, right?
yeah, exactly,
Just for
exactly.
knowledge. Okay, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's say the temperature. I mean, I would like to talk about conditional statement, which is like if statement. So let's say the temperature is 15. Okay, if temp, so basically for every if condition, so if it's like, if this is happening, you do this one. If this is not happening, you tell this one. For example, let's say if someone comes and asks you like, hey, can you complete this project by end of today? So you will have, you can say like yes, or you can say like no, or you can say like maybe, or you can say like I will try. So whatever. So basically I'm asking a question. So anything which starts with if, that's a question. And then later on we will just write the answer. So here, if temperature is equal to 15, I want to print it's warm. Okay, so because the temp value here is 15, so this is like totally fine. For example, let's say the temperature value is here 16, and I write the code. If temp is equal to 15, it's warm. And now because the temp value is not 16, it just not returning anything. So for that reason you can use the else one. So if temp is equal to 15, for example, if someone comes and asks like, hey, I have these three scenarios, I wanted it in the code. If temperature is like 15, I wanted to print like it's warm, it's nice weather. If temperature is like more than 15, I wanted you to print like it's nice. And if temperature is like less than 15, I wanted to print like it's cold. So now, for example, if the temperature is equal to 15, it's warm. Else, not sure. Now, because the temperature value, what the variable which we assigned over here, it is 16, and here we are writing the program explicitly for the value 15. So how it goes, it starts with this one, and here it will get output as false the moment once it gets the false, and whatever which is inside this block, it will not execute, this will not execute, and directly it will go to else, and it will, whatever it is over there, it will print here. So for example, if you would like to have more options, like more conditions, what you
So, Rajiv, sorry. Remember the break that I told you for a meeting, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's time now in 1 minute.
sure,
So
sure, sure. Go ahead.
yeah,
And
so
what time you'll be,
mm,
you'll be free again?
maximum is 30 minutes.
30
So
minutes. Okay,
it can be less than 30 minutes, but the
that's
maximum is
totally
30
fine.
minutes.
I will go ahead and I'll have my dinner then. And then, so
Okay.
right now it is 10:28 in my local time. I'll be back by
Yeah.
11 o'clock. Is that fine?
Yes, that's fine. And then I don't